AskReddit by Jacaboya07. What are you in the top 0.1% of in the world? I have a condition called situs inversus where all of my internal organs are on the inverse side of the typical layout, so my heart and stomach are on my right, liver and gallbladder on my left, etc. The occurrence is 1 in 10,000, so that actually puts me in the 0.01% range. Edit, updated to accurate percentile. Funny thing, situs inversus. I took an chest x-ray, just an hour ago, of a woman who has complete situs inversus. She did forgot to tell us, so we did have an error for like 2 seconds after we saw the first image. Discovered identical twin, separated at birth, raised in another country, me, in our late 30s. Whoa, what countries? I had 7 wisdom teeth and all were taken out at one time. My grandmother had 5. My cousin had 3. My husband had 8. I had none. I consider myself evolutionarily precocious. I have exploded 3 times, IED, old Soviet landmine, and a rocket strike on my gun truck. I don't think there's a lot of people who can say that who still possess all of their limbs. Edit, since this comment blew up, pun intended, I will not respond to people catfishing in direct messages and I am not interested in your OnlyFans. Seriously, like 6 just today, go away. Got me beat by 1 IED while in a convoy and the other while on patrol. Buddy at front of me stepped on it. He was our dog handler too. Thankfully all of us survived, including the dog. I am one of few with adults something called Harlequin syndrome. It's harmless, literally does nothing beyond making half my face get red and the other half not red. So when I'm really hot and sweaty, one side of my face will look like a tomato and the other half will look as if I hadn't been hit at all. Completely normal. There's only like 1,000 people in the US who have it. I could only find stats for the US, so I don't know the worldwide numbers, but it's pretty rare. Maybe not 0.1% but close. Note, I mention adults because it's common in babies for the first week of their life, but it usually goes away. I thought that Harlequin syndrome was the one that made, and I really, genuinely do not mean this in an offensive way, babies look like burn victims. Like, pictures I've seen of people with this syndrome all look very different from just having half their face be red sometimes. People diagnosed with clinically definite MS who have a disability score of 0. Most people diagnosed with MS have at least some disability. For many it's low, but not 0, because the medication reduces the effects of the illness. For some, the medication does very little and they can be profoundly disabled. I was diagnosed and started medication in 2008. Since then my disability score has been checked every 6 months by my neurologist, and has always been exactly 0. I'm just one of the very lucky ones who responds very well to the medication. Happy for you, dude, that's a good outcome for that situation. Survivors of pancreatic cancer. Edit, this blew up more than I expected. My story is on my profile. I counsel people going through this now. Please PM me if you'd like to talk. The best advice I can give is to go to a place that specializes in these types of cancer, like MD Anderson in Houston. There are several in the US. They have the best doctors, the best imaging equipment, access to more clinical trials, etc. I was given 6 months to live in my hometown. 6 years later, after chemo, radiation and Whipple surgery, I am going strong. My risk of recurrence started dropping at 2 years, and now the risk is less than 10%. Edit 2. People have said they can't find my story on my profile. I found it under my old username. Here is the link I posted at the 4-year mark. TM medium equals IOSAP and AMP, UTM name equals IASF. That's a tough one to beat, usually a death sentence. Good job and fuck cancer. I have incurable histamine intolerance. I have to be on a very restrictive diet. I am on all kinds of histamine blockers and still get histamine reactions that make me have to check out of life for at least half a day with no notice. It is so rare, there is no actual treatment plan for it, so it's a try it and see approach. That's brutal. I can speak backwards. Say a sentence and I will say it backwards immediately. If you record me and play it back in reverse, you can hear your original sentence pretty well. David Lynch, take notice. The amount of data I crunched for the SETI at-home project, 5 quintillion floating point operations. Sadly, no evidence of a signal from intelligence from space. I was in the top 99.97%. I tend to think that SETI hasn't found anything because radio waves dissipate over the vast distances of space. Do you think that's true? Do you have thoughts on the Fermi paradox? I am one of like 5-10 people that are on regular call for golf architectural history. That combined with my knowledge of how to build and evaluate golf architecture in the field probably puts me into the 0.1%. Is Pete a sadist? I used to be one of the best Tetris player for a short time. Same, but for me short time is until I played online. Tetris Effect, Connected is still one of the greatest games ever created, and deserves all of the praise in the world. Ween listeners on Spotify. I hate you and will defeat you. 0.1% of people in the world who replied to this thread. That's true, hopefully not for long if all goes well. I suffer from a combination of illnesses that make me severely disabled in a certain way. I have been invited to several studies and doctors from several European countries. I have tested medication that's not on the market for over 10 years. My disability doesn't have a name yet but will probably get named after one of my doctors who has known me for over half my life. It started as a mental illness with psychosomatic seizures. During each seizure a part of my brain tissue disconnects and sometimes dies. Sorry for the terrible explanation. I am neither a doctor nor a native speaker. Long story short, my doctors have found out about like 12 other people having a similar combination of symptoms, yet it was not properly documented or researched before. That kinda makes me a 0.1% of the population, sadly not on top. This sounds not very fun. But it's so interesting and crazy cool to be involved in research like that. I hope you're doing okay. I got into a Helldivers 2 server within the first 10 minutes of trying. This guy liberates. I've met the same actor 3 times at 3 different points of my life despite not working in the film industry, so I gotta think I'm in the 0.1% of that occurrence. Edit, it was Leo DiCaprio. I've bumped into Ewan McGregor about 12 times in the most fucking random places, split between 3 continents, and every single time, including the first, he thinks he knew me and he would start chatting away like I'm an old friend. I do not work in entertainment either. Deleted. That's a proper answer I was looking for. That's class, good for you. I'm one of 2 people in the international, multi-billion-dollar company I work for that are able to run a specific script. I'm the only person in the company that can run it for non-Canadian based accounts. If my laptop dies or I leave, the tool developers have to find a new way to do what I do, or it has potential to result in many millions in audit penalties. I'm the 0.0002% in that aspect. This company needs a contingency plan, damn. I qualify for height, but I'd say radio contest wins. I've won thousands of dollars in radio prizes. Anywhere from concert tickets worth hundreds of dollars to free beer. I have a friend who won one of our local station's call-in so many times in a row that they made a rule you can only win once a month. He'd listen to the station all day anyway, and just had the number on speed dial. Was going to say height, but I've just fallen short according to this calculator. I'm 195 centimeters. https://www.yigaCalculator.com/calculator/height-percentile-calculator.php 99.96%. It's definitely nice, but it brings problems people don't expect. I was the top 0.1% percentile for math in my country back when I was in school. Not world, sadly. My claim to fame: I am the only person on earth that has or has ever had my given and surname. While I do have middle name, it is unnecessary. How do I know? My dad's last name was common and of Polish origins. His parents emigrated to America from Poland. My dad was born about 10 years later in 1910. Both his parents died, 2 days apart, due to the 1918 pandemic. Dad was taken in by several foster homes, and when he turned 14 he applied for a work permit. According to the county clerk, Dad did not exist. But my dad knew his birth date. He knew the doctor who delivered him, and the clerk put 2 and 2 together and found a birth record with a scribbled name. The county clerk then wrote what he believed the scribble said, and that became his surname, but it was unlike any other name. So, all of his children were born with the made-up surname. At my age, mid-70s, I know every one of the 93 people who now share that made-up surname, and not a one of them has the same given name as me. I respect and value both your privacy and your anonymity, but damn it if I don't need to know your name. I'm in the top 0.17% of the world's population just for having natural red hair with blue eyes, if that counts. Me too, and I'm left-handed. Number of books read. I am 37 and have read 7,240 since 2001. 2,766 of those are picture books, though I am in the top 30 for my home country on Goodreads. Since I am a professional librarian with few social skills, this makes sense. Do you have a favorite book?